You are a spiritual being in physical form, a dichotomy of light and dark, You are a spiritual being in physical form, a dichotomy of light and dark, where energy equals mass on a journey designed to fulfill our personal legend and purpose, to use humanity throughout, to amplify and transcend, slay the ego, raise the humanity. That's a signpost up ahead. Your next stop, the High Vibe Zone. Hey, y'all, hey. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you for joining me in the High Vibe Zone. I'm Sharice Fonz, and we're here to do this today. So you might notice something a little bit different if you've been following the High Vibe Zone for a while. This is the first Wednesday of August, so welcome to that. I usually have my amazing friend Tony with me in the first Wednesdays, but the stars did not align on this one. So it is me, y'all. It's solo, but we are going to be talking about something really awesome, and we're not going to stop the high vibe. So if you are watching for the first time, welcome to the High Vibe Zone. If you notice, there's like a little bit of theme going on here. Love Twilight Zone. Love, I'm more of a Star Trek fan. Just gonna say, live long and prosper. But definitely dig Star Wars. So I'm not gonna hate. Shout out to the Mandalorian. So if you're joining us in the High Vibe Zone, thank you so much. Leave a comment. Your name. Where are you joining from? Where are you geographically in this world? And what are you grateful for? It's always, always, always so important to start your day off with gratitude. The gratitude changes the attitude, y'all. So let's get into this. And if you are returning to the High Vibe Zone, welcome back. You are in the right place. And whether you're watching recorded or live, you can still feel the high vibe. So let's dive into this really quickly. We got the encouraging cards of the day. I'm going to quickly shuffle, see what comes up. But we are talking about something that I am very passionate about talking about. We're going to be talking about ego and humanity, y'all. So specifically about how to slay that ego and how to raise that humanity. Okay, all right. I see you, Austin, Texas. Thank you for joining. Okay, we have Portland, Malta, Quebec. Amazing, amazing. Grateful for life. Absolutely, absolutely. That is just taking that breath, y'all. That's life. Thank you all for joining in the High Vibe Zone. So good to see each and every one of you energetically, because I can't see you physically. So there we go. Oh my goodness, starting off right. My ego is too big, but I didn't know. Oh my gosh, y'all just wait. This is going to be so good. Let me get to this encouraging card. I'm like shuffling because I'm like looking at the comments and shuffling. And what are we going to pull out today as an encouraging card? There we go. We've had this one before in the High Vibe Zone, but it's choose your own path. And in fact, every card that we've pulled in the High Vibe Zone has always correlated with something and a topic that we're talking about. And choosing your own path. I really resonate with this in the constructs of the conversation that we're about to have about ego. Do you know that if you are using ego, you aren't choosing your own path? Your ego is dictating which path you should go. And so this card is so important because when you listen to your humanity, when you slay that ego and raise that humanity, you are choosing a path that is going to lead you not only on your personal legend, but it is going to fulfill and light up the world in ways that you will never imagine. So choose your own path in the context of talking about ego. Okay, we got some LA in the house. I see you. Welcome, LA. We got a lot of different So I can like teleport to all of these places. This is amazing. It's so great to have y'all. Okay. So I want to talk to y'all a little bit about ego. But before I talk to you about ego, I want to actually um, paint a healthy picture of ego. So ego is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just how we have designed it to be used in our society today. So ego is meant for, let's say you're trying out a spaghetti recipe for the first time and you make the spaghetti and it comes out horrible. And your ego, what it's supposed to do is come up and say, you know what, Sharice, you did the best that you could with the knowledge that you had. It's okay. You try making spaghetti again, or find another recipe, or take a cooking class on spaghetti. And then ego goes back away. And ego is actually meant to help us with our self-confidence. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but what happens with ego, which is also attached to some components of our amygdala, which is also attached to prefrontal cortex and some other things that are happening within our brain. Ego sometimes decides to take the forefront of a lot of the things that we're doing, especially if we're out of alignment or stressed or under pressure. So ego really comes in at that point and feels the need to protect a really deep part of self-preservation. And ego doesn't know how to distinguish empathy for others. So ego is just like all about itself. It's the I thing. And so, but ego's intent was really just to kind of give us that little confident booster. But confident boosters feel good. It feels right, but sometimes they can go a little too far. So I just want to say ego is not necessarily a bad thing, but where we have it in our society, we can see it very clearly how it's turned out to be something that we really do need to slay and tame. So with that, I want to give you 3 things that are going to help with slaying the ego and raising the humanity. And I have little stories that go with each of them. So stay tuned, buckle in. We're about to get into it. And if you have comments or questions along the way, drop them in. I will highlight them and I will answer them the best that I can. So the first thing that you want to do with your ego, and y'all just trust me on this, the first thing you want to do with your ego is you want to name your ego. Yes, you want to name it. So you want to give your ego a name. My ego's name is Otis. So what helps with naming something is you're able to call it out and also kind of see it as a separation of certain components of yourself that you want to protect. You start to put boundaries into that. So I put a boundary around my ego of naming it. So name your, I'm typing this out, ego. Name your ego. What name are you going to give your ego? If you have a name that comes to your mind, drop it in the comments. Let me know what you're going to name your ego. My ego's name is Otis. So what happens is if I'm driving and somebody cuts me off or I get upset about something, I tell Otis to chill. I'm like, nope. Or if I feel like something is happening, or that word just keeps coming out. I know Otis is creeping in, and I'm like, Otis, you meant to be in the back seat. You're not meant to help me drive decisions. Okay, you know where you belong. And in one of the workshops that I did, how to become a racist, we talk about ego. And someone had mentioned, shout out to Eric with Light Co-Creative, had mentioned having an ego that is pocket sized. We probably have some egos that are way too big, and having a pocket sized ego so you could just, all right, I got you when I need you, but you're not at the forefront of my decisions. So naming that ego. All right. Okay. I relate to that. My grass had a name. All right. Peanut. Naming your ego. Perfect. So Sandra's ego's name is Peanut. So Sandra, you know what to do When that ego comes up, he's like, Peanut, not right now. And it really does, it might sound silly, but it really does help create a healthy boundary. And for most of us, we don't even know where we are in relationship to our ego. So the first thing you want to do is name it. The second thing that you want to do with your ego is you want to play with it. So what that looks like is, hey, ego wants me to do this. I'm actually going to go and do this. And it really does give you an opportunity to test things out a little bit. Ego does not want you to win. Ego doesn't want you to win. Ego wants to be that weighted security blanket that is keeping you in bed forever. And not just, I'm not talking just physically. I'm not talking even physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Ego wants to weigh you down because if you win, ego loses. A bad day for the ego is a good day for the soul. So as you're thinking about this, your ego plays such a big, big point. So play with it. Oh, ego, you want me to be like, oh, everybody watch this and do this. And, I'm so concerned with, no, ego, I'm going to do the other thing. I'm actually going to release expectations. I'm actually going to detach myself from that comment. You see ego come up a lot on social media in some conversations that should not be hosted in social media platforms. They should be hosted in a one-on-one. Ego always wants to prove the other person wrong. Ego never wants to be proven wrong. And so that's where you start to see a lot of these arguments on social media. Whereas if you could get in the same room as someone, maybe sit at the table with someone, share a meal with someone, see the humanity in that human, ego starts to be like, oh, wait, your humanity starts to be amplified. So play with the ego. If ego wants you to respond to someone's comment that could be a potential divisive response, don't do it. Slay that ego in that moment. Take that time to do that. Because ego only wants to be right. It never wants to be kind. And this is a quote that I've been sharing in my workshops for a while and something that I am currently working on in one regard with my husband. If you have the choice to be right or to be kind, choose kind. Choose kind. Sometimes that doesn't work out with my husband. I need to be right and I don't care about being kind. I got to tell him you were wrong. But I practice. He has been my greatest teacher in that practice. I didn't put number 2 on here. Play with it. That's what we're talking about, playing with the ego. Remember this, ego is not trying to let you win. And the areas, so ego is like, oh, I know you want to work out, but I was talking to somebody the other day and I said, we are a society or culture that really likes lists and steps and tell me the 5 steps that I need to do. And I said, I wonder if the reason why we need those steps so much is not just because we need them, because we could go out and do it. All right, you tell me to drink more water, got it. We don't need 5 steps to drinking water. What I contemplate is ego wants to go through each of those steps and tell you why you can't do it. So the change and transformation never happens. And again, if we don't know where we are in relationship to our ego, it is going to be very hard for us to move forward. Hey, Kenya. Hey. Oh my gosh. Welcome to the High Vibe Zone. Kenya. Name it. Play with it. Like it a lot. Yes. Thank you for dropping in for as long as you can. That's the beauty of the High Vibe Zone. You can stay for a little bit. You can stay for a long time. Still getting those high vibes for your day. Peanut, calm down. Yes. Again, naming that is so key. All right. The last one. Speaking of steps, because I'm sure your ego's going to be like, nah, I can't name it. That's ridiculous. Play with it. Really? You want me to? Nah, I don't feel that. Well, let me tell you this one. The ego, whatever your ego name is, name or nameless, is not going to like this last one, but it is the most critical one to it. And I can go into more of it. Actually, let me get it ready for typing or to show it on as a visual. Here we go. There you go. Okay. Ready for this one? This is the biggest one. I spelled this right. Tell me if I spelled it wrong. Embarrass the ego. The ego does not want to be embarrassed at all. Okay, you embarrass your ego. And I have a few stories around this. Maybe I'll get into the Costco Instagram story in a minute, but the way that you embarrass your ego goes a little something like this. I have two stories to bring this to bring this into context. So my husband has been really into feathers lately. Like on his run and his walk, he'll find like owl feathers or hawk feathers, and he brings them back, and he has like this area where he likes to put them, and he's been really into feathers. Like he's like, I like this feather, and it's kind of cool. Little hobby. And the other day, or not even the other day, in the story, we were driving down this really busy street. And all of a sudden, to the left of us, we see this ginormous dead turkey. Turkey feathers all up in the air, everything. And I looked to my husband. I was like, husband, we should go get those turkey feathers because the tail feathers, they're awesome. My husband was like, absolutely not. I am not getting out of this car. We are not stopping to go pluck some dead turkey feathers. Like, not going to happen. I was like, well, the turkey don't need the feathers anymore. So like, and I'm trying to convince my husband to do it. But the act of it is too embarrassing. It's too much to do it. So we don't do it. So fast forward through a series of very aligned and synchronistic events. I'm driving down a busy street, and to the right of me, on the sidewalk, I see this dead turkey. Now, this turkey is a lot smaller than the one we saw, my husband and I saw, but nevertheless, it's dead and its tail feathers are up. And I remember thinking to myself, you need to go get them turkey feathers. And I was like, and the ego was like, Otis was like, nah, man. Like, people are going to think you're weird. That is so weird. Don't even do that. Don't even go there. That's like, so don't even do it. Don't. Like all the things were like, don't. And because I'm able to distinguish the voice of my ego and the voice of my intuition, which actually would be a great conversation. How do you know which one is your ego, which is trying to keep you from something that could benefit you, and which one is your intuition that could be gauging you? But we'll talk about that a little bit later. So I made a U-turn and I parked not far from the dead turkey. And y'all, I took a napkin because I didn't know the condition of the turkey. I took a napkin and I plucked 11. I didn't count them. I just so happened that that's how many I plucked. But 11 turkey feathers from that turkey. Cars driving by. Nobody honked at me. I don't know if anybody saw me. I don't really, it didn't matter. But in that moment, the ego was so silent because I have said, no, we're going to embarrass the ego today. It is not about me. And what motivated me was how much my husband loved turkey feathers and how many opportunities do you actually get to pluck turkey feathers? I just thought it was really cool. Fast forward, I told my husband, I was like, you should look up the symbolism around a turkey and its prosperity and abundance and all of the great things that we really do desire in life. And I thought, how symbolic is it that ego told me no, but my humanity and my intuition and just my understanding knew better to go do this. And it led me to just this beautiful symbolism of prosperity and abundance. And so that story is important for, so doing stuff that embarrasses the ego. There's some, like, start dancing in public. I actually saw a post of somebody doing that one time. It was a CEO of, I can't remember the company, but he like filmed himself dancing in public. And it's really important to just, again, check that ego. You know, why aren't you doing something? It's because the ego doesn't want to feel vulnerable or embarrassed, but that is where all of the good stuff happens. Shout out to Josh. Yes, welcome to the high vibe zone. Yes, love it. Stirred up, why don't we dance? Yeah, we don't dance because our ego is like, people are going to laugh at you. It goes back to our amygdala and sort of it's an anthropology component. We think that if we are laughed at or made fun of, we are no longer allowed to be in this inner circle of safety. Whereas that's not true. Ego making up all kinds of stuff, y'all. So again, name that ego so you can call it out. Call out Peanut. Be like, nope, Peanut, you're not speaking the truth here. You start dancing, you never know. People might start dancing with you. And in fact, that's probably not a bad thing, because dancing releases a lot of chemicals, a lot of healthy chemicals, oxytocin, serotonin, releases a lot of cortisol, which is that stress hormone. So we need more dancing. So Josh, shout out to you for that. The next story I have around embarrassing the ego is I walk barefoot a lot. So anyone that knows me in my neighborhood, in my community, knows I'm barefoot 97% of the time I'm walking. I walk the trails barefoot, the streets, all of those things. And there is this place on the trail. I kind of even get embarrassed talking about it, but I'm going to do it because here we go. Otis, chill. There's a place on the trail that has this dirt that my feet love. And I just go in with my feet. And my husband jokes that I look like a chicken. Oh, we have a special guest. Hi. Hi, special guest. Do you want to come say hi? Do you want to come say hi? Okay. Well, we got a couple. Do you want to come say hi? You can't see them, but they can see you. Come say hi.
Hey. Hi.
Hey, y'all. This is Charlotte. Hey, girl. Hey. Welcome to the High Vibe Zone. All right, go hang out with your brother. I'm almost done. And so my husband jokes that I look like a chicken when I'm like going into the dust and stuff, but I love it. I will move all the dust together and like stick my feet into the dirt. Got another special guest in here. All I need is 2 more and I got the whole crew. And so I spend a lot of time in this dirt, and sometimes people will walk by and I'm just feet in dirt, and I have to remind myself, this is for me. This is for my grounding. This is good for my soul and my spirit. And I need not be worried about the opinions. Okay, hold on. It's getting a little loud. Bubba, take that outside to your sissy's room, please. Go take that to your sissies. Thank you. Charlotte, go with your brother and close my door, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Just gonna lock this door real quick. All right. And I need not be concerned with what people are thinking about me as I'm in this dirt. And so I will sit in that uncomfortable space, in that embarrassing space, to let ego know that I will not move, because this is for me. And this is my form of self-care, my form of grounding. And the dirt makes me really, really happy. And so sometimes we avoid the things that feel good to our soul because our egos want to be protected, in the sense of, people are going to think that's different, or, no, you dance. Okay. You got music in your head. You got music on your heart. You dance, you sing it out. And ego is so important, and telling us in the gauge of how far we are in relationship to where we want to be. So use ego in that way, not in replace of our humanity. Our humanity wants us to dance and invite others to dance with us. Our humanity wants us to see where our growth gaps are and where we can grow better and bigger. Our humanity has this concept of sisi na sawas. It's a Swahili phrase for we are the same. We are this humanness is the same. And through our humanness, through Ubuntu, I am because we are, we can learn all of the connectivity and the movements that really do enrich us. Ego doesn't want that. Ego creates wars. Ego creates conflict. Ego creates division. Humanity within that word, like on the shirt. Can y'all see this? Here, let me move the banner. Let me move it. Humanity, there is unity in our humanity. So when we slay that ego, going from naming it. So I know I got one name, I got Peanut. Peanut, if y'all got a name for your ego, drop it in the comments. Let me know. Send me a message. Let me know your ego's name. Name it. Play with it. Yeah, ego, you want me to do this? I'm going to go do that. And embarrass it. Do the things that your ego is trying to avoid you doing. Because it will lead you to your greatest humanity. Again, a bad day for the ego is a great day for the soul. So I just want to thank you for being with me in this high vibe zone. The comments. Okay, I'll make sure, Josh, I tell Charlotte you said hi. Yes. When the ego is lost, limit is lost. Absolutely. You become infinite, kind, and beautiful. Amazing. Thank you for coming here to say that, because this is so true. Hear me, y'all. Ego is not your friend. And if it was, the only thing it should be doing is encouraging you in those moments where you just need that little bit of boost. And it should go into your back pocket. I will say one other thing. I'm not going to say I don't have seeing abilities, but I used to think I was like super psychic on the road. Like I'll be driving and I'm like, oh yeah, this person is going to go this way, or that person is going to go that way. I could just predict what ego is going to do, because ego is not patient. Ego has no concern for what other people are doing. So it only concerns itself. And ego likes to move very, very quickly, because when you move quickly, you miss these moments that life is trying to give to you. You miss these good omens that are out there. So y'all test it out. Next time you're driving or you're in a car, see somebody that is driving a little erratic or out of place and predict what they're going to do. They're going to go into that next lane. They are going to cut you off. They are going to do this. Why? Because they are driving with ego. And in fact, ego's the road is the best, one of the best places to practice ego, just so y'all know. I practice it all the time. And I always, if someone cuts me off, I don't go into low vibration and get upset. I just assume that they're on their way to a birth. It's just where I go. I'm like, oh, they're trying to get to a birth. Because I know as a doula, sometimes I have raced to a birth, barely making it, but not very many people around. So I didn't really cut nobody off, but I did race to a birth. So I just assume that everybody's racing to the birth of their first child. Sandra, thank you for your kind words. I receive them, and I just send you light and love in this moment. This amazing comment here. Ego prevents us from being limitless beings. Yes. Y'all came here to be experts of this. I love this. Share, because ego is something that is very detrimental to our humanity, because it's not used properly. It's like technology. You know, we never really learned how to use technology, right? But it's one of those things that we have attached to our hips. While technology is and does serve a beautiful purpose, we sometimes use it as We don't use healthy boundaries around it. Amazing, amazing comment. Yes. Eat the peanut. There you go. Love it. I love it. Can you briefly discuss the distinction between ego and consciousness? Yes. I breezed over that. And I called it ego and intuition. So, because consciousness does live in the brain, and because bias and all of these other components take up space within the brain, consciousness and unconsciousness are the relative variables that can play in on ego. So, I used ego and intuition as contrast, because consciousness can fall under the bucket of ego depending on the experience of the person. So if you don't mind, Deborah, I will use ego and intuition as sort of the balance here. So the ego, and I shared this a little bit earlier, the ego doesn't want you to win or grow. And very similar to what I shared with the car or driving on the freeway, ego is impatient, it is unkind, and really doesn't have any consideration for those around it. However, your intuition or your humanity, your Jiminy Cricket, is patient and kind, and it wants to pause for a second. It likes to reflect for a moment, and it does take into consideration the I versus we. And so I believe that once you get into a situation, so I'm trying to think of an example of where we could add some context here in terms of ego being I, and then intuition having a more outward view. I guess that's actually it. Intuition has more of an outward view. Instead of I'm trying to prove you wrong, intuition and humanity is, let me understand where you're coming from. And even a step further, I might not ever understand where you're coming from because of the collection of experiences that you have are completely different than mine. But I in this moment can hold the space of being human and being kind to you as we have this exchange of conversation. And there's an and, not a but an and. And if you do not return the same kindness to me, I send you light and love in this moment, and do not take that on and reflect that back to you. That is the difference between ego and intuition, which ties into our humanity. Ego will say, I'm going to be kind to you. And if you aren't kind to me, I'm going to not be kind back to you. Ego stops it. And it's not, and ego stops the ability to create a healthy container or boundary, where intuition can say, okay, I'm not getting through to this person. I'm going to just hold space and be in light and love. And I always tend to think about how on the conversation of when people get offended, we don't get offended. Our egos get offended. Our egos act out from the offensiveness because they're embarrassed, or there's so much there. But our egos get offended. We don't get offended. We are spiritual beings in physical form. Our core of us, the part of us that leaves our bodies, has no boundaries and infinite possibilities, and does not get trapped into a box of, oh, I'm this and you have offended that. Our ego does that. So I hope that answers your question, Deborah. And if it doesn't, reach out to me. Maybe I can do a part 2 of this, talk a little bit more, maybe dive in a little bit deeper into, the ego and intuition. How do you understand it? But I would start by naming the ego, giving it a name, giving it that outside identity, because even though it is internal, it's helpful to just say, I'm going to separate you for a second while I sort out what is going on. I visit my ego constantly, and sometimes it's gotten more fluid where it's not as I don't have to think about it as much. I'm like, Otis, you need to go chill while I map this out. Something hurt my feelings. I need to go. I need you to go over there because you're not going to help me process and heal my feelings. Ego, oh yeah, that's a big one. Ego does not want you to heal. When I say that, Nelson Mandela comes to my mind. There is a line. Let's see if I can find this real quick. I don't know if I can find it, y'all. So hope I really do. I hope I can find it. Here it is. Found it. Thank you. So if you've ever listened to Nelson Mandela's story, I highly, highly recommend you listen to it. You know, he went into prison, not the person that you see that came out. He went in angry and upset and like full. There was a lot there. And through his time, there are all the things that have happened to him. You know, when he came out, he had his ego in 100% check, and he was able to come out healed. And one of the lines that Nelson Mandela said was, "As I walk out the door towards the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew that if I did not leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I would still be in prison." Ego will not let you heal. So if there is something going on within your life right now where you have yet to heal, it's because ego won't let you. Because if you heal, you become a transformative being. You level up and you start to see that there is sun beyond the overcast. And when you can see that, when you can get into that full light, it becomes something more than you'll ever know. Thank you. I'm so glad that it's timely. Yeah. According to me, if you have the power to listen to our weak points, then ego never comes. So true. Ego is what reacts to negative situations, not us. Absolutely. I just want to oh my gosh, I got to let y'all go. I got to let y'all go because I want to keep this short and sweet, but I also have to say this. You wonder why so many social media platforms use the word react versus respond. I feel like it has some type of notion to, and yet, because when you react, it's never really from, you react when there's a threat. Very similar. Look at nature. Nature never reacts unless there's a threat. It responds beautifully to the changes of seasons. And so you brought up something, Keisha. Maybe I'll talk about it later, but thank you. Ego prevents growth. Yes, it stops healing. Study Nelson Mandela and the constructs of ego or the context of ego. Okay. Yes, I will do a future talk on intuition for sure. So I'm gonna wrap us up here. And I want to thank you all for being with me here in the High Vibe Zone as we talk about slaying the ego and raising the humanity. You've shared some beautiful insights in this co-creation of conversation. You have, I love how, walk away with something, naming that ego, start there. Otis, chill. Otis, you're not going to help me grow. Otis, you're not going to help me heal. You can also give it a non-name. I like Peanut too. So, because, Otis, some people might think of Otis Redding, blah, blah, blah. But Otis is what came up for me. This is definitely for another conversation, but I also name my bias. So maybe we'll talk about that at a later time too in the High Vibe Zone. But in true fashion, I want to send you a blessing of abundance, a blessing of prosperity. May your heart guide you in the way that you need to be guided in the moment. May you have what you need. May you find what you seek. And I send you a blessing of light, love, and gratitude. Thank you so much for being with me here in the High Vibe Zone. See you next week. Have a beautiful rest of your day. You are a spiritual being in physical form, a dichotomy of light and dark, where energy equals mass on a journey designed to fulfill our personal legend and purpose, to use humanity throughout to amplify and transcend, slay the ego, raise the humanity. That's the signpost up ahead. Your next stop, the High Vibe Zone.